welcome to this episode of Filmi Ladies. We are Pitu and Beth, and today we're going to talk about two movies. The first one is Duvidha. It's a 1973 movie directed by Mani Kaul. It stars Ravi Menon and Raisa Padamsee, and you can watch the whole thing on YouTube. And the other movie is the 2005 film Paheli, directed by Amol Palekar, starring our favorite Shah Rukh. And also Rani Mukherjee. I watched it on Netflix. Both movies are based on a story by acclaimed Rajasthani novelist Vijay Dan Detha. And his story, in turn, is inspired by a really old folktale from Rajasthan. All the best Indian folktales come from Rajasthan. Everybody knows this. And so I love both movies. They're very different, even though they're based on the same story, but I love both of them. And I'm curious to see how Beth feels about them. But first, Beth, I'm going to start off by asking you a question. What do you think it is about paranormal romance that is so appealing to people? Because I'm a sucker for it.
So I've never thought about that. I would not call myself I don't dislike it, but I don't seek it out. So here's what popped to my mind when you said that. And this is not a pre-planned question, just so everyone knows I am winging this. Somewhere on Twitter in the not too distant past, I saw someone say, they were talking about trying to get a friend of theirs to start reading romance novels. And the friend who was new to romance novels said, "Oh, I get it. This is fanfic about men."
Of course, obviously.
Which is beautifully said. And as someone who's fairly new to reading romance myself, I feel like I was like, yeah, that is kind of what it is. So I think if you take that idea, making someone supernatural and fictional is even more fanfic, right? Like,
right.
You can remove absolutely any obstacle, especially if your supernatural person can have a human form or a physical form. So I would
shapeshift, can possess, do all the things,
disappear, like make rose petals appear, whatever. So I feel like it just adds a layer of fantasy in a pleasing way, right? I would assume that's part of it. On the flip side, I'm sure it can obviously then create all sorts of obstacles that a normal person, even if they're fictional, wouldn't have. Right. So it just is more drama and more satisfaction of various kinds, I would guess.
Yeah. I think it also, I personally love paranormal romance. I like anything to do with anything. Well, I just like anything to do with ghosts and otherworldly stuff. I don't really like the vampire books that are out like Twilight, which is like horrible. But just anything otherworldly appeals to me. And I think one of the things also about paranormal romance of any kind is that it can be unpredictable.
Sure.
Precisely because you can bend the laws of time and space and logic and fallibility and whatever. You can essentially do whatever you want. And one of the problems with romance, although I love the genre, is that romance can be so predictable, right? It's like boy meets girl and meet cute and stuff. When you insert the paranormal aspect to it, whether it's a ghost or a vampire or a jinn or a spirit or whatever, it's just there's no more rules left. And then you have more room to play with. I also found it interesting that you mentioned like romance novels and stuff, because typically that is, most of the novelists are women and most of the readership is also women. And what is interesting is that Duvidha and Paheli are based on a male novelist's book, and both movies have been directed by men. And in the case of Paheli, has been produced by Red Chillies Entertainment as well. In fact, I was reading a quote where Amol Palekar said that he requested a script reading with Shah Rukh in 2003. And he narrated the script of Paheli to Shah Rukh, and Shah Rukh loved it. And he said, sure, I'll star in it, but there's one condition. I want to produce it. Yeah. And he said that he was finally, like Red Chillies Entertainment had finally started turning a profit because, Ahsoka bombed and for Dil Hai Hindustani and all of that stuff. So he was like, Red Chillies is finally turning a profit and I can afford to make slightly experimental cinema, and I would love to produce Paheli. So clearly something about Paheli appealed enough to Shah Rukh that he not only starred in it, but produced it. So it's interesting that this movie actually has men all over it. Yeah.
And a lot more men characters who speak anyway.
Right. Although Shah Rukh did say that he feels like the hero of the film is Rani Mukherjee and he's really the
Sure.
supporting actor. I've always loved Paheli because it just seems like one of the few movies where a woman has so much agency. Do you feel the same way, Beth?
Yeah, that's very striking about it. And the line that I can't do it in Hindi, of course, but when she says, "No one's ever asked me what I wanted before," is just a gut punch,
Yeah.
and I think even us modern women um, probably feel that about certain aspects of our life.
Mhm.
And I'm sure many people feel it about many aspects of their life, not just women, but we are specifically talking about women in this film. And that is to have someone articulate that and then see the consequences of her choice and how fast she makes it because she does know what she wants. And, all of those things are just, they're really powerful. And this film is so simple in some ways, but it is so rich. And that's one of the major things about it. It's so starkly said, like, yeah, I have an option to make a choice here and I'm going to do it.
Yeah, it's like it's very layered in a lot of ways, and you can like really peel apart all the layers in this movie and story and talk about it. But in some ways, it's really very simple. It's just
Yeah.
distilled down to one question: like, what does Rani Mukherjee want? And there
Mhm.
is a scene where she basically says to Shah Rukh, the imposter, the ghost, basically, she says to him that I would rather be with someone like you. I would rather be with a husband who loves me than be with a husband whose nose is in his accounting books. Um, and I just thought that that was so fascinating. And when I started watching both movies, Duvidha as well as Paheli, I just found it was so interesting that the ghost who is so besotted with her and comes in with the intention of essentially taking her husband's place and tricking everyone. He's an imposter and he has completely set out to trick everyone, including Lachi. He almost immediately decides he's going to come clean to her, and
Yeah.
he's going to be like, listen, because I've seen Paheli so many times and I've seen Duvidha twice, and every single time I'm so taken in by the storytelling that I feel like, okay, this time he won't say it. Because I feel like he shouldn't. I'm like, listen, Ghost, I am rooting for you. I'm also rooting for Lachi. I think it is in everybody's best interest if you just keep your mouth shut. Don't listen to your conscience. Ghosts are not supposed to have consciences anyway. I mean, if I was a ghost, I definitely would not say anything. But he goes and comes clean, and he's like, I am not your husband. I am an imposter. I am a jinn or spirit or whatever. And I'm a shapeshifter. And I just wanted to give you the choice. And I think that's the scene where she starts crying because she thinks to
Yeah.
herself, like, wow, you did. Because if you think about it, it's her husband who really tricked her, you know, um, not intentionally,
Yeah, or his
but
family, maybe.
right. I mean, it seems like at no point during the marriage or the wedding festivities or anything was it mentioned to her that, by the way, he's going to be gone for 5 years. And so you're going to be alone in this giant Haveli with all of your in laws, but no husband. I mean, it's just sprung on her. And you have
Mm.
to wonder if it was intentional. Like, it sounds very sneaky. Like, you're telling me that in this gigantic family, and there's all these like children and everything, you're trying to tell me that it didn't occur to anyone to mention that to Lachi. I
Hmm.
mean, maybe her family would have called it off, right? So I do wonder if there's an element of trickery in that. Like, oh, now you're married. Now I can tell you I'm going to go away for 5 years. What are you going to do about it?
Yeah.
You know? So it's funny to me that it's like her human accountant husband who tricks her in a way, but it's actually the ghost who is so like moral and upright. And I think that's the moment at which you, as a viewer, kind of fall in love with the ghost.
Yeah.
Although for me, I fell in love with him the minute I saw him in the kurta and the pagdi and the mooch. But I'm easily swayed. So, what else do you love about Paheli, Beth?
uh, Both of these films are beautiful.
So
So
beautiful.
beautiful in very different ways. I kept thinking about so I had, of course, seen Paheli before and Duvidha before, but it'd been a while. And the what the contrast in color palette, I think, is to me, the most striking visual difference. There are many, but that's one of them. And that it's not that Duvidha is not colorful. It is, but it's got such a different, more muted palette. There's a lot more walls that are just plain white and that kind of thing. But they're both just absolutely stunning. And especially for Paheli, well, actually, no, for both of them, I feel like the way they use color really amplifies the fable or, tale aspect of this somehow. Like they both seem a little unreal in their look. In Duvidha, that is amplified so much by the bride who never speaks, which is super weird. And she does get to make a choice in that film, but you also kind of wonder, I think it kind of raises more questions, and of course it's ending, and the two endings are very different, which we can get into, but they are so gorgeous. The music is lovely, the sound is very effective, even putting aside music, like the two casts who are so different also, I think, function really well for, in Paheli, this sense of I kind of wonder if the ghost in Paheli is also supposed to be a little bit lonely. So I think this giant Haveli appeals to him also, right? Like he maybe doesn't know, he can see that in the wedding procession, I guess, but maybe that's an added benefit of being part of Lachi's.
You're right, because there was that scene where he enters the Haveli for the first time, and Nina Kulkarni, who plays the mother, she comes and she just caresses his cheek and she says, "My son," and Shah Rukh's eyes just like light up, and it's almost like it's like the switch gets turned off. And I think that's also maybe the moment at which it occurs to him that these are like actual human beings and flesh and blood people, and I'm going to be playing with them. So he's a very considerate ghost.
And because in Duvidha, the dialogue and everything else is so much more sparse. It might just even be sparse, not even just in comparison. I don't get a sense that the ghost really has any affectionate draw other than for the bride. He doesn't talk very much with the father or anyone else. And obviously there are fewer characters in that one, but that one's a much more like ghost and bride versus the world than this one. This one is kind of like everybody until the truth comes out, kind of thing. So I like the sort of community love that comes out in Paheli, and like how much fun the ghost has in the songs, for example. He was ready to do some song sequences. So that was very sweet.
I think Paheli is definitely a romance, and it has like a lot of drama and has like a smattering of comedy in it. Also, like you can tell that Shah Rukh is having so much fun and being so cheeky and mischievous, sparkle in his eye. To me, Duvidha is actually like more of a supernatural story. Not even so much as romance. And I thought it was very effective. Now, I personally love horror films, and I loved the light and shadow. I literally had to look up on IMDb who the cinematographer was. Navroz Contractor, because he's so brilliant. There's so many really scenes where the way the actor, like the way he's backlit and the way he like blends into the shadows, it's actually eerie. And in the beginning, when he comes into the bride's room, into Lachi's room, I was like, wait, is this guy good or is he bad? Like, yes, we know that he's in love with her, but what does that even mean? And can spirits even love someone? And does he have evil intentions towards her? What does he intend to do? There's definitely like a spookiness to it. And it's not Duvidha is not a feel-good film. Paheli is. And Duvidha does not have a happy ending either. Paheli does. But Duvidha to me was so powerful on so many more levels than Paheli was. I mean, I love Paheli and it's extremely enjoyable, but Duvidha to me was really the one that made me like sit up straight and pay a lot of attention, because I was like, what is going on? And even the fact that the bride doesn't say anything. She literally does not have a single line of dialogue, which by the way, the actress Raisa Padamsee, she's half Indian and half French, and she does not speak a word of Hindi in real life. So unless they dubbed her. But I thought it was brilliant, the fact that she doesn't have a single word, because it also speaks to how little agency she has. She can't speak to anyone, she can't talk to anyone. And really, the only person who seemingly loves her is her new ghost husband. Because if you look at Lachi, the movie Paheli begins with Lachi's life in a maternal home and everybody loves her.
Mhm.
But if you look at the Vidha, and it starts off in the same way, it's the marriage procession is heading to the groom's house. She literally has a dialogue in there where she says that my parents threw me away like I was just on a like trash on a garbage heap. Like, oh, she's old enough, she's 16, let's get her married off. So
Yeah.
there's definitely this sense of like sadness, and there's just so much disillusionment in the Vidha that I felt really, really bad for her. And I thought the fact that she couldn't say anything and she just had to like emote with her eyes, I thought that was very powerful. I found the Vidha to be very heartbreaking in a lot of ways, and the ending of course is
Mm.
like so heartbreaking. But I mean, I would recommend both movies for people to see. The Vidha is very like experimental, and it's definitely sad, and it's so stark and
Yeah.
a little bit eerie. And Paheli is very feel good and happy. But I like both. I felt like you didn't actually like the Vidha much, though. Was I wrong?
Oh, I do really like it. It's
Oh,
very
oh,
effective. Yeah, it's a little upsetting isn't quite the right word, but I did get
yeah.
a little bit of a shiver at the end.
Unsettling, maybe.
Yeah, unsettling. And
Yeah.
even though I'd seen it before, I didn't really, I remembered that the ending was different than Paheli, but I didn't really remember what the ending was.
Right.
And then when they kind of close with showing what the bride does and talks about, kind of here's the
Yeah.
rest of her life in these few couple of sentences. And that it
Right.
just kind of gave me a shiver, it was,
Yeah.
and I wonder if she feels it had been worth it.
Right.
And I suspect she does, because she would have been alone for those 5 years, or
Hmm.
however many years. Is it
Five
5? It's
years.
not, he comes back early though, doesn't he? Or does he?
No, I mean, yeah, a little bit early,
Okay.
because he hears rumors. In Duvidha, he
Right, that's
hears
right.
rumors. And then it's the same thing in Paheli, where he
Yeah,
hears rumors that, oh, Kishan's wife has given birth to a child. And he's like, how
right,
can she have a child?
right.
Yeah, so a little bit early, but we're not sure how early.
Yeah. And so I just kind of wonder what she, if she indulges in looking backwards, what she thinks about it. And I mean, in the end, or the end that we have, right? Her life's probably not any different than it would have been anyway. So she might as well have had these enjoyable
Right.
years in the middle. But it is, I can't think of the word. I mean, it's subdued, but but in a sadder way, right? Like it's just kind of
I'd say just like disillusioned is like
yeah,
almost like you've given up
yeah.
and you're
And
like, this is it.
that word disillusion is such a great one, because she was living an illusion because it was a ghost, right?
Yeah.
And when reality of the normal world that we most of us accept as real comes back and the ghost is done away with, then um the fantasy is so over. Whereas in Paheli, she gets to continue living the fantasy and doubling down. No one else knows that it's
Right.
still a ghost, which was really funny and really clever and really great. And so they get to have that, like, that frisson sparkle of like secret relationship, even though
Yeah.
everyone thinks they know what it is. So and I this ghost is obviously such a good actor, and he's going to find a way to like turn Kishan into ghost Kishan
Yeah.
again, right? So he's going to reestablish that persona. So and
I also, oh,
go
good.
ahead. No, go ahead.
I just, right now when you said like Kishan and Ghost Kishan, and I was like, hang on, does the ghost even have a name? Were we ever told a name?
I
And
don't
we're
think
not.
so.
So we don't know anything about the ghost, either in
Mm-mm,
Duvidha or in Paheli.
mm-mm.
We don't know who he is. We don't know how long he's been living on that people tree. We don't know what kind of background he has. Why is he a ghost? Has he ever
Right.
thought about like moving towards the light or whatever it is that ghosts are supposed to do?
Yeah.
Um, we hear nothing, and I love that because it's such a blank slate. And again, like Shahrukh said, the movie is not about him. The movie is actually about Lachi. She's the hero.
Yeah.
We know everything we need to know about her. The ghost almost is a secondary point in her life and doesn't matter as much. Although I have to say, I am curious, like what exactly about this ghost, why did he want to be with her and he was so besotted? Maybe we could have like a sequel where the ghost tells a tell-all.
Right.
That would be great.
It would be great.
Is there anything with Paheli that you did not care for? There were a few things like minor misgivings that I
Yeah,
had.
very minor. I don't know if it's because I watched Duvidha right before, so then I was thinking about what would a shorter version of this look like. I don't actually need it to be shorter, but like the camel race,
Yeah.
it's fine. It definitely amps up the you are in Rajasthan factor,
Yeah.
which, the exoticism of Rajasthan, even within India, is very important in cinema,
Yeah.
right? Like, and I'm sure that's
Mhm.
very tiresome to people from Rajasthan.
Right.
But
I'm not from Rajasthan, so I love it.
yeah, I
I'm
mean,
like, more, please.
super beautiful.
Yeah.
And yeah, where else would this folktale possibly be?
Yeah.
The whole subplot with Juhi and Sunil, like
Sunil Shetty.
what I kind of like about it is that that's an easy reason for Lachi to be less alone, is that she has it's the father's brother's
Sister-in-law.
wife, right? I
Yeah.
think
Juhi
Sunil
Chawla
is
is technically Shah Rukh's auntie
okay, right.
by
But she
marriage.
basically has a sister. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is really lovely. And I love that for Lachi. And I had forgotten that character is not in Duvidha.
Right.
So that, but I don't really, it's nice. I'm glad that it got such a little mini arc. And I'm also glad that the camel race explains why he's gone,
Yeah.
which is better than him just kind of flaking out or it being also for business or whatever, because we've already got the
Right.
one business. So, but I don't know, that could have been done maybe one more iteration of that, or like see them together a little bit more or something. But so I don't think that was perfectly handled, but it's absolutely fine.
I found
That's
it a
really
little
it.
bit annoying because I was like, okay, so if you think about it, Lachi is given a lot more agency, right? Just by the script itself. And then by the ghost also, because the ghost gives her an option. He's like, I can just go back and you can live your sad, lonely existence. I'll just make an excuse and go away. Or I can stay here if you'd like me to, because I would very much like to be with you. So Lachi has a lot of agency and she has a lot of choices that she can make. With Juhi's character, it's like, so she didn't want her husband to go away. He left his wife and infant child because of losing this camel race or whatever. And then now he just comes back and she just has to welcome him with open arms and be happy. And I'm
Yeah.
like, where's the anger? Like
That was like 7 years or 8 years or
I
whatever.
would be pissed. I'd be like, oh, now you're back because we won a
Right.
camel race. Like, screw you, which is maybe not very realistic within the confines of Paheli. But it's like, why is she so like delighted to have him back? And he just like comes back. And I was like, if you're gonna just make it so pointless, then why did we even need him as a character? I mean,
Yeah.
truthfully, you could cut out the whole Juhi Chawla and Sunil Shetty arc in Paheli and the movie would be fine. You could also cut out the camel race and the movie would be fine. You could also cut out the well that they dig and the movie would be fine. Because Duvidha has none of those
Oh yeah, the
things.
well. I kind of liked the well simply because I liked that Ghost Kishan was taking his new position
It was being productive.
seriously. Right. Yeah. He's like, and he's making sure people, in addition to Lachi, really like him and
Yeah.
value him. So I kind of like that. And then the song is really pretty, especially with that woman dancing who's wearing the blue and she looks like water.
Yeah.
And oh my God, can we just, she's dancing on her knees for a big chunk of
Yeah.
that. That looks so incredibly difficult and painful. And I'm so amazed. But
I've
I
seen
will
it in Rajasthan.
have
I've
you.
seen those dances. It's
Mm.
amazing. Yeah, I saw it in Udaipur. It was
Is
so
that,
cool. They actually have like all of those dances where they're doing circles on their knees, and it's like gobsmackingly gorgeous.
I, I mean, is there anything more beautiful than song set in Rajasthan against like a like cream or white plaster or stone building with all these huge, colorful, sparkly skirts? Like there is nothing better than
That state is just like so photogenic,
yeah.
so beautiful, and their food and their
Mm.
culture and their clothes. It's gorgeous. I mean, the first time I went to Rajasthan, and I've only been once, I was just like,
Pretty.
it's like Rajasthan is like India on steroids. So it's like whenever I have like American friends who've never been to India and then they go to India and they come back and they're like, ah, and their eyes are like as big as saucers and they can't talk fast enough about how amazing India was. I feel like that's how Indian people from like big cities, which are a lot more boring, feel when they go to Rajasthan.
I
Everyone
mean, it
comes
is
back with like,
shockingly beautiful.
it really is.
And I've only been to Jaipur, which Amber Fort. So in the background,
Right.
had to do it. Even just a few days there, I was like,
I know, it's so gorgeous. It's like a visit Rajasthan poster, right? Paheli,
right.
Lamhe, these are all movies where it's like, Lekin, have you seen Lekin? Oh my God, that is another supernatural love
yeah.
story that I love.
Wait, no,
and that
I haven't then. No.
That you have to see it.
Wait, who's in that?
Dimple Kapadia is in it and Vinod Khanna. Oh, Beth, you have to see it. It is a supernatural ghost story. It is so amazing. And like Paheli, similar story. I mean, the story is not like it, but the BTS.
Okay.
So Gulzar really wanted to make this movie, Lekin, but there was no one who was willing to finance it because it was too like out of this world, the story. So he actually had approached Lata Mangeshkar to sing all the songs for Lekin, which she did, except for one song, which is sung by Asha Bhosle. And he just mentioned to her, like, I'm having trouble with financing. And she was like, oh, this movie sounds wonderful. I'll produce it.
I've seen the Bengali original because this is a Tagore story. And of course it's been filmed in Bengali and it stars Sumitra Chatterjee as the main guy.
What is it called?
It is called I can't pronounce this at all. I'm so sorry. It's the name of the Tagore story. So Kudishta Pashan.
Something multisyllabic.
Hungry Stones.
Okay.
It is one of my favorites. I've written about it multiple times. I love that story.
Because I haven't seen the Bengali. I didn't even know there was a Bengali original, but I love the Hindi. I love Lekin. It is one of my favorite movies. And Dimple is you will love it because Dimple Kapadia is amazing. Yeah. And I think this is one of two Dimple Kapadia movies that she's done that are very iconic. Like her roles are iconic and they're set in Rajasthan. There's Lekin and there's Rudali, both of which are like really good films. But yeah, Lekin was amazing. And the same thing happened with Lekin. Gulzar couldn't get financing and then Lata Mangeshkar agreed to finance it. So she actually produced the film because she was like, this should be made. And I'm so glad she did because it is fabulous. But yeah, that's another supernatural romance, I guess. But the thing you were saying about the illusion in Paheli and in Duvidha, that song Dheere Jalna from Paheli, so beautiful. So Shreya Ghoshal. I know, it just makes you want to cry, right? It's like Sonu Nigam's voice, Shreya Ghoshal's voice, and my favorite Shah Rukh of all, which is tortured Shah Rukh. I love tortured Shah Rukh. So it's just tortured Shah Rukh looking off in the distance, being very sad, which just makes my heart break in a million pieces. But in Dheere Chalna, one of the lines in it is so good, where it says, "Kaanch ka sapna kal hi na jaye, soch samajh kar paँव rakhna." It literally means Kaanch ka sapna is like a dream of glass. And it will probably break. So be very careful where you step. It's so beautiful.
That is beautiful.
Beautiful. I feel like I can't be friends with anyone who dislikes Paheli.
So let's talk about that a little bit, because I know that my understanding is it kind of underperformed for what people were saying. And yet every time I mention it on Twitter, I get like dozens and dozens of people saying, I love this film so much, liking the tweet. Like everybody loves this
It's
film.
Very cult for the people who love it.
But I feel like everybody loves it.
There's entire swaths of people that have not seen it, that have not heard of it.
And it is, you've probably been in these conversations. What is an Indian film you recommend to someone who's never seen one before?
I would recommend Paheli.
I recommend it all the time. I don't know how well it's worked for various people, but I have recommended it many times. I've shown it to like American kids who have no connection with Indian culture and they like it. Like it's, it's I can't say enough good things about it, really. I don't know why people wouldn't like it.
I did go and read Raja Sain's review of Paheli because I was just curious to see. I always enjoy reading the comments.
Sure.
Because they're so terrible. And like literally a vast majority of the comments were, this movie is stupid. How can a ghost have a baby? Stupid movie. Shah Rukh is a ghost. That makes no sense. It was like a whole bunch of people who don't understand the concept of stories and storytelling and cinema. And it's like, you understand the concept. Do you understand the concept of fantasy?
Well,
Like,
like the ghost is personification of wish fulfillment. Like, come on
yeah.
now.
No, these are not people who understand metaphors and analogies and
Mm,
any of that. Like, these are people for whom, these are people who would love Kishan, because Kishan is all about the accounts. He's all about like Jalla, Gulab Jalla, and all of that. Like, keeping track of all of
yeah.
the expenses. You're either that guy, or then you're the guy who, loves Lachi and is willing to like do all these things for her.
I actually really like that Kishan, real Kishan, is kind of a drip. He's an accountant by stereotypical accountant, but he's not a monster. And
No.
I like that. He's just an ordinary guy who won't stand up to his dad,
Yeah.
which is like a lot of Hindi cinema and a lot of
Yeah.
people's cinema, right? So there's nothing monstrous about him. And he does
No.
seem like, we all know that guy. Hopefully we don't marry him,
No.
And when he comes back,
If he was American, he would be wearing a shirt with pocket protectors. I'm sure of it.
yeah, like a polo
Right?
shirt, probably.
Yes.
He's in various points of my life watching this film, I have changed my mind back and forth about what I think kind of about Kishan and how Kishan is treated, because it is kind of cruel. Like the ghost basically murders him.
Yeah.
Not in body,
well,
but in
takes
soul, right? Like
over.
the ghost takes over him. So Kishan
Yeah.
is now basically a zombie.
Yeah.
We know that this is a better version of Kishan, but Kishan does not get a choice at
No.
all. And if we are presented with the idea that it's either she gets a choice or he gets a choice, and they don't both get one, then obviously
Right.
I will come down on the side of her getting one. But it is really interesting that Ghost gets a choice, but
Right.
Kishan does not get a choice. Although he does choose to try to fight, right? He goes and picks up the
Right.
coals and he rounds up the little goats and everything. But so I have at times felt really bad for him, because I think, unfortunately, in life, most of us are Kishan, right?
Yeah.
We are not the tragic heroine. We are not the exciting, sexy, romantic hero. Like, we are
Right.
just people doing our jobs and trying to do best with the societal expectations we find
I'm the
ourselves having.
camel. I'm the camel in the race that decides he doesn't want to run anymore and just sits.
Lies
And he's
down.
all grumpy about it. He's like, meh. There's like literally the camel. I zoomed in on him.
I'm a
Just he
grumpy
was like,
camel.
he was literally doing that. He was just chewing the cud. And the people are like, get up. We're in a race. And he's like, not gonna. I was like, I identify with you, Mr. Camel. Not gonna run in the race. I was like, you run in the race.
It's like,
So yes,
like,
I am camel.
have you been to Rajasthan? It's real hot here in the desert. I'm not doing it.
I will rest under the people tree and probably meet a ghost. I ain't running in no race.
Right.
But
Right.
sorry, I got tangential.
No. But
by...
I just feel like, so I've gone round and round on Kishan, and this time I did not care about him at all. I was very delighted
Really?
to, yeah. Not that I didn't care, but I was like, he's the least of the main three, right? Like, he's the least interesting to me. Now, if there had been a way for Anupam Kher to get his comeuppance, that would have been fine with that, right? But the story's not really concerned with him, which is fine. So I will sacrifice Kishan, who is basically innocent. I will sacrifice him to the romantic love. In a way, he's like the drippy best friend character from a bunch of movies, right? Who has to give up his love or whatever,
Right.
But he doesn't actually get to choose. So that is it is a little creepy, but the movie doesn't really want you to think about that, because then it's like all sunshine and sparkles and romance. And then the song at the end with the puppets is one of my favorite song sequences in all of Hindi cinema. It's so amazing. I know that's not the first film to do a song with the puppets.
I love Chori Chori that has.
Do they have one too?
Oh yeah, it's so famous.
And Raj Kapoor I feel like Raj Kapoor has a different one in I'm going to forget the name of the film. I think he has another one maybe, but so or maybe I've just seen that and I don't remember, but so charming. It's so creative, it's so appropriate. I love Sukhwinder Singh too. Like, he's one of my favorite singers. So I love it.
But you're right. I mean, it's no matter what the ghost does, and yes, we love the ghost and everything, but the ghost is immoral at the end of the
Oh
day,
yeah,
because from the ghost perspective, I love this girl, I think she's gorgeous and I want to be with her. Oh, oops, little problem, she's with this man. Yeah, like whatever, I'll take his place for like 5 years. Oops, he's come back. Yeah, whatever, I'll just like inhabit his body. It's fine, it's fine.
it's
um
fine.
so he does all these like benevolent things by the village, like,
Yep.
the well and all of this jazz. And then, he does good by his family, with the camel race, and he
Mhm.
brings, because of winning the camel race, and Nilcheti comes back, and then, everyone is like happy and all of these things. But you still are an interloper.
Yeah.
None of your charm and your sparkliness and your adorableness takes away from that fact, and
Nope.
you still have taken someone else's spot in it. And it reminded me of another movie of Shah Rukh's, where he plays these two, because Paheli to me is so interesting, because it asks the question, like, how do you want to be loved? Because
Mm.
we could argue that Kishan also loves Lachi,
Yeah.
maybe not in the moment, but when he comes back, he'll grow to love her, because I mean, it's Rani Mukherjee.
And
Why
it's
wouldn't
the
you love her?
only, he does it the best he can. And when we see
Yeah.
him getting those berries for her years
Yes.
later, that's the only thing he knows about her. And he
Yeah.
acts on it. So like he's
He's trying.
and he's inexperienced, right? With
Yeah.
people, not just with
Right.
his marriage, but like all he does is work. So like he's not
Yeah.
good at people and he's trying.
But you know who that reminded me of, Beth? Rabne Banadi Jodi.
Oh, sure.
Because it reminded me of Surinder Sani, Punjab Power, Lighting Up Your Life. It's the same thing. He's a dweeb. He's very, very sweet. And he does his old teacher a favor by marrying his daughter. There goes that
Yeah.
Tyag line that I don't like. I'm not a fan of Tyag of any kind, but fine, whatever. And then, but Tani doesn't want to be loved by him. And Tani doesn't want to be loved like that. She doesn't want that
Right.
quiet love. She wants the filmy love. And so
Yeah.
he has to take on the role of like a filmy kind of a person, which personally I find Raj in Rabneet Banadi Jodi so annoying.
Oh yeah, he's too much.
He's so irritating. I mean, it's still Shah Rukh, so it works, but like he is so grating. I would take Surinder Sani and his sweet little smile any day. Minus the pants that are like hiked up to there. Um, but yeah, it's the same thing, right? And except over there, no one is interloping. There's no bad guy in Rabne Banadi Jodi. There is, there's
Yeah.
Tani, and then there's Surinder Sani, and then there's his like alter ego. But in this
Yeah.
one, it's actually two separate individuals, and it is a zero sum game. Either Kishan
Yeah.
can win or the ghost can win, and you
Yeah.
got to decide whom you're gonna vote in favor of. I did feel very sad for Kishan when he comes back, and the poor thing is like trying to convince every single person,
His
his mom,
mom.
his dad, his uncle, everyone, even the kids. He's like, don't you know me? And they're like, no. But that, I mean, again, I know it's supposed to be suspension of disbelief, but how is this like very good personality, charming, sparkly, well spoken guy who is buying bangles and putting bangles on all the ladies? How are you reconciling him with the Kishan
Because
that
they
you've known your whole
because
life?
it's wish fulfillment. They all want Kishan to be more like this ghost, right? So like,
Right.
it's when Ronnie says how how can I turn away the one who wants to be here? A similar sentiment, I think, is embraced by all the other people. Like
Right.
a son who brings him 5 gold coins every day, no more
Sure.
questions asked, don't care, you know, um, because the father's assistant or secretary or whatever, like he's suspicious. And the
Yeah.
ghost plays with him, right? And is like
It's
making
the
food
father's
disappear.
brother,
Oh, father's
younger
brother
brother.
makes
Yeah.
the food disappear out of his hand and things like that. So
Yeah.
like the ghost is like, but I think that everybody else wants a person like that around too. And like, fair enough, he's full of sparkles and dancing and fun, and like he's
Yeah.
So I don't think anyone else in the family disliked Kishan. They just never probably thought about him very much. And now
Yeah.
that like an improved version, sure, why not?
Yeah. Like, remember in the beginning of Paheli where he's doing his accounts and the little kids, his nephew and niece, I
Yeah.
suppose, they come up to him and they're like trying to get his attention. And he's like, like go away.
Yeah.
Like he doesn't even, just swats them away. And
Yeah.
they're like disappointed, but they leave. It's not a big deal. And now this new ghost kitchen is nice, and he plays with them, and he tells the little girl that she looks like a doll with her bangles, and it's like, yeah, sure, I'll take this new
Mhm.
Uncle Kishan. He's
Mhm.
lovely.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah.
Interesting.
So on this rewatch, I was thinking about another film that I've never made a connection to with this one before, and you are a much bigger fan of this film than I am and have seen it more
Ooh.
times, I'm sure. I was thinking about DDLJ.
Oh yes.
Because in that movie, we also, yes, Raj is the same character, but like he's trying to, he's trying to win over that family by lying.
Yeah, of course.
And Kajal is the only one who knows who he really is in a way,
Right.
right? And that is also what the ghost is doing.
Yeah.
And a little different, obviously, but yeah,
Maybe
I kept
that's
thinking
just
about that for
Shahruk's
some
modus
reason.
operandi. He lies in every movie to get the girl.
I mean, a lot of people lie in a lot of films, right? Because it's a way to create drama. And a friend of mine actually pointed out once, if you take out all of the things from the show Friends that are lies, you're basically left with nothing. Like all that show does is it's a show about lying. And she's right. There's a huge amount of lying in almost every episode of Friends. But yeah, because I find that technique in DDLJ, like the idea of someone doing that, is really repellent to me.
Right.
But
it's very shady.
He's a real human person from London in the 1990s. This is a ghost from days of yore in Rajasthan. So it's pretty different. And the ghost is not, I don't know, he's not lying kind of in the same amount or the same way or something. I don't know.
He lies by omission.
Kind of, yeah. Yeah, he doesn't create a whole new persona or whatever. And for all actually, the ghost Kishan is the real ghost, right? Like that's the ghost's personality.
Yeah.
It's not Kishan's personality, but the ghost is being his authentic
personality.
self. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's
I
kind
mean,
of
you can
interesting.
see even his playfulness and his mischief in the way he tries to attract Rani Mukherjee. First, he's a bird, then he's a squirrel, then he does the damn footsteps on the well. Like all of these ways to like basically get her attention.
Can we talk about the well and like the architecture? This movie is so pretty. Oh my God, those step wells are so
this
beautiful.
Movie was shot on location in Rajasthan in Jhunjhunu district. I read for 45 days straight. So they did shoot it in all of those places. And this well is not that really famous Bowery. It's not the most famous one, but it's like another famous one. It's so beautiful. Oh, and while I was thinking about how absolutely gorgeous this movie is, such a visual feast for for all the senses, really. I like that the prettiness serves a purpose. And the prettiness does not take over, and because that is one of my pet peeves, as we know from like even movies like Kala. I like that it's beautiful, but it's really about the story. Everything is in service to the story. Everything. This is just the backdrop, and it's just the cinematographer. Which, hello, director of photography is Ravi Chandran. Of course, the movie's going to be beautiful. Did you know Rani Mukherjee loves Ravi Chandran so much because like he makes her look so good? She always insists on him being the DOP on her films.
Oh, I did not know that.
Which I was like, good for you, Rani Mukherjee.
Well chosen. That, yeah, it's just so pretty. Oh,
I love her makeup too.
I feel like we should do an episode on Lakin and its Bengali original.
Yes, we should do this.
Because we'll each watch a new to us film.
Yeah, I totally want to do that. That would be fun.
So gorgeous. It's so pretty. And I'm sure no one listening to this has not seen probably both of these films, but I'm sure they've all seen Paheli. And if you haven't seen Duvidha, you really should, because it's really quite
amazing,
beautifully done, and so unsettling, and the economy of it is fascinating, and it's so good. But then
what did you think? What did you think of Amitabh Bachchan's cameo?
I really enjoyed it.
I did too.
Is it a bit much? Yes. But
is he hamming? Of course.
It was the right kind of a bit much. And like I could listen to him go at the goats and everything. Like that was hilarious to me. I really enjoyed him in this. I like that persona more than like Grumpy Patriarch or whatever. This is like
Sexy Sam.
So I thought I think a lot of people could have played that role and had fun with it, right? But he was very good. It was such a nice little dollop of that. And
I love how
and
he's
I love
also
that
like,
the ghost tricks him, right?
yeah,
Or does he, like, is he kind of,
right.
he knows and he's like this with the ghost, or is he tricked? I don't know, but I feel like you could read it both ways.
I mean, I love that he's like poking fun at these so-called like intelligent and
Oh
well-educated
yeah.
and rich
Oh
people,
yeah.
because he's like, oh, I'm just a silly old shepherd. What do I know?
Right.
And then I love that whenever he says like, who is the real Kishan is like jumping through these hoops to prove that he's the real Kishan. And meanwhile, Ghost Kishan is just like, I'm a trader. Why would I round up goats? Like, that's not something we traders do. We calculate, you know? And then eventually, I think it clicks for Amitabh. And then he reframes the question. And instead of saying, who is the real Kishan, he says, who is the real, like, who is the love of Lachi's life? Who loves Lachi? And that's where the ghost is like, wait now.
Now you're
That
playing
is
my
something.
tune.
Yeah, now I have to answer. I love that because he clearly understands that as long as until he keeps reframing the question, the ghost is just going to be like, I'm not going to participate in any of these stupid tests.
Right. Right.
And then it becomes a point of pride and ego for him, where he's like, no, I got to prove that I'm the one who loves her. And then that's how they capture him. And everyone is so pleased about it. And then I love where Anupam Kher tries to give him money, where he's like, no, here's some money, like, for helping us. And he's like, we don't need stuff like that. It's only stupid people like you that need it. I'm happy with my goats and my staff. Thanks. Bye. He just like,
which is kind of underscored by the fact that, all Lachi and Ghost need is each other right now.
yeah.
I'm sure they're very happy to live in that magnificent Haveli
Oh,
with
yes.
all the money in the world, but
And
technically
all
all
of
they
the
really
wonderful
need.
designer costumes.
Oh.
This is the first movie I ever saw that convinced me that men in mustaches and turbans could look good. Because until then, I was very anti facial hair. But every time I make these bold, sweeping statements where I was like, ew, beards look disgusting, mustaches look disgusting, I hate facial hair, I say these things, and then Shah Rukh wears a mustache in Paheli, and I'm like, about that. Or then Shah Rukh gets a French beard in Chak De India, and I'm like, well, about that. I don't like turbans, about that. So like Shah Rukh just like changes, like he makes me eat my words, basically. I'm like, well, I changed my mind. I mean, one thing that Shah Rukh has not been able to disabuse me of yet is I always say I hate Speedos. Like, men should not wear Speedos. No, they should not wear Speedos. They should wear like shorts, like swim shorts is fine.
But has he worn one and you weren't convinced? Or
no, but I feel like he should.
It?
I feel like he should, just to prove or disprove me. I have no ulterior motive in this. For science. Shah Rukh, I think that someone should tweet to Shah Rukh that he needs to wear a really skimpy Speedo and do like a swimming scene.
If it was going to happen, it might have been in Besher I'm Wrong, right? So I feel like maybe the window is passed, but.
No, he can do it in Dunki or any of his Jawan. He could do it in any of his other movies.
His next appearance as Pathan.
Yeah,
whenever
he should do it.
Yeah. That's funny. Yeah, I mean, I don't have a particular opinion on that. It's not something I seek out. And obviously Jackie Shroff kind of terrified a lot of us in Rangila. Because if you don't know that's coming.
I love Jackie Shroff.
It's a lot. It's a lot. Everyone has every right to wear it. It's not like a moral opposition that I have. It's just aesthetically not my bag. So
you don't like porn stashes?
No.
I didn't like full-on beards either, but then Shah Rukh had one in Rais, and I was like, okay, I like beards now.
Rais is a good look.
Confusingly. Good look. He can't look bad. That's the thing. I'm also opposed to moppety haircuts, but I love old Shah Rukh, young Shah Rukh, like in Karan Johar, in Karan Arjun and all of those films where he has the moppety haircut. And I'm like, please go get your hair trimmed.
In the 90s, we all had so much hair. Everyone had very thanks Hugh Grant.
Especially Anil Kapoor. Anil Kapoor had the most.
Yeah. Let me ask you a question about this pair of films that I kept thinking about too, which is this the best example of two very different effects coming from the same source?
Yes.
The only other thing that comes to mind for me, of course, is Devdi.
Yeah.
And I think you could argue that Paheli and Devdi both have kind of a similar amount of rewriting and Now that said, I have not read any of the original sources for either of those things, but so I don't actually know what got changed. I can only
Right.
compare the two films of each of these, but
Right.
for the 8,000 films
Like,
plus
I
decades.
don't even know the original story by Vijaydan Detha, which is also called Duvidha. His book is called that. I don't know if it has a happy ending or a sad one. My assumption is it has a sad ending, which is what the movie is based on, but I don't know for sure.
Yeah, I don't either. And I actually feel like I did actually read this very early on. I got it from the library and I don't remember anything. So that's not going to help anyone. So if you listeners have read it, please tell us, because that would be interesting. But I was just trying to think through other, literary source material or any source, and pairs of films coming off them that are so very different, yet also so very clearly recognizable as being the same thing, the same.
I mean, there's
source.
Emma, Clueless, and Aisha.
Those feel more similar to me, though, than they do. Those are not as distinct from one another as this.
Have
The
been
settings are
changed,
different.
but it's not. Yeah, but like Devdas and Devdi for sure. I mean, Devdi is so good, and Devdas is just like kind of an avoider for me. Yeah, I would say so. But it's so funny, isn't it? It's like, have you ever been to like those art competitions that they have for like high school students? I love those, where it's like they'll tell these high school students some subject, like it'll be like, I don't know, recycling, or it'll be like journeys, some random keyword that they'll come up with. And people come up with the craziest shit. Like there's someone whose artwork will be like this beautiful pastel, like impressionistic, I'm inspired by Claude Monet kind of like artwork. And then someone else will come up with something where I'm like, were you in an acid trip the night before you made this painting? Because this is very like primary colors and like jagged shapes and everything. And it's like the same keyword that spawned it. So it's so cool to me, where it's like they came up with this like one line where it's like, a ghost falls in love with a flesh and blood human being, go. And then Manikal comes up with Duvidha, and then Amal Palekar comes up with Paheli, and they're both so different. I do wonder also with Paheli, to what extent it's Shah Rukh who suggested a lot of the changes in it, because I've actually seen Amol Palekar's directorial ventures apart from Paheli, like his Marathi movies, and he is a very realistic director. He's more in the money call category of directors, and he's really not very masala. Like some of his Marathi movies are like legit depressing. And there's a movie he's made called Thoda Sa Rumani Ho Jaye, which is Hindi, but the cast is almost entirely Marathi. It really feels like a Marathi movie that they just dubbed in Hindi. His films are much more avant-garde than Paheli's. Paheli is very like commercial, which makes me wonder if Shah Rukh wanted to be a producer so that A, he could make it have a happy ending, and B, I really wonder if it was Shah Rukh who wanted the ghost to be a hero, like making the well and the camel race, because Duvidha has none of that. Duvidha's ghost is very amoral. There's good things about him. He's moral in that he tells the bride that, I'm a ghost, like he's truthful about that, but he's also completely unconcerned with morals in other areas of his life, where he's just like, this is what I want and this is what I'm going to do when I'm going to do it.
And they're not interested in fleshing that out any, right?
No.
It's less than half as long. So it's
exactly
much more, they don't get into
it's much more mysterious.
Yeah.
Whereas with Paheli, the ghost is actually very human, isn't he? Like he wants these human bonds with people, and like with his mom and the family and all of these things. And it's kind of like, but he is also like more of like a Hindi film hero. Like he's doing these like do-gooder things or whatever. So I do wonder if it was like Shah Rukh who suggested those. But I mean, both movies are wonderful, and I wouldn't, Paheli is definitely much more watchable than Duvidha is, just because Duvidha is just so unsettling.
Yeah, it is.
And Duvidha makes me sad at the end.
Yeah. Back to this question of pairs from the same source material. Again, I in the world of Rani, we have Aya, of course, which is a, similarly much longer version of a shorter film. Which I do really like that original. I've only seen that one in the trio that it's a part of. Very recognizable, right? Is the same basic idea, but I stretched into what I consider a masterpiece. I know many don't, but that's fine. We've already had an episode about that. But yeah. Anyway.
I would not delete any of Aya's songs, by the way. I would delete at least 2 songs from Paheli, though.
So like you would delete well song. The well, and then
I don't like Laga Re Jal Laga. And What else would I cut? Maybe I would cut the very first song that the movie starts with. Um,
Oh, at her house.
yeah,
It's
when
okay.
she
I mean,
hasn't gotten married yet. It's like
yeah,
Minnat Kare Na Maniyo, that one.
yeah.
I'd probably cut those two,
It's
and the
okay.
film would be like a little bit shorter, and that would be fine.
I didn't feel like it dragged at all though. Even
No.
even with the shorter version, so recently in my mind, um but is this also because at every turn I was hoping that there'd be another completely smoldering look between Ronnie and Shahrukh? Yes.
Oh,
More,
so
more.
let me ask you this. People always say that their favorite Shah Rukh Khan pairing is with Kajol. Okay, so these are the Shah Rukh pairings, right? There's Shah Rukh Kajol, which is, I think, most people's favorite. There's Shah Rukh and Juhi Chawla. There's Shah Rukh and Rani Mukherjee. And then way below, I think at like not even fourth place, I would say like fifth or sixth place, there's like Shah Rukh with Madhuri. Well, there's also Shah Rukh and Aishwarya in that mix. So
And
these are kind of,
what about Preeti Zinta?
oh, I don't like that pairing at
Oh, you
all.
don't?
I do not.
Hmm.
But I just don't like Preeti Zinta in general. So
Okay.
it could be that. She seems very misfit with him because she's very like light and airy and breezy, and he's
Mm,
very intense. So it feels very oil and water. It's kind of like, have you seen Fana? The Kajol and Amir pairing
I
really threw
have.
me off.
No, that's weird. I don't like it.
It's so weird. It's like Amar and Juhi are so great, and then Amar and Madhuri are great, and then I like Kajol just fine with a lot of people, including Shahrukh. But then Amar and Kajol, it just threw me for a loop. I just
Yeah.
can't. I can't even watch the video of Mere Haath Mein because it just like throws me off. I can only listen to it on audio because it's just too strange, and I don't know what it is about them that bothers me so much. But anyway, my favorite Shah Rukh pairing is actually with Aishwarya, but I
Mm,
also do like his pairing with Rani Mukherjee very much. I'm actually not a Shah Rukh and Kajol fangirl.
no.
What is your favorite pairing, Shah Rukh and Rani?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's mainly I think mainly because I like her so
Yeah,
much as well. Um,
right.
I don't my issue with his pairings is that I feel like the man can have chemistry with a lamppost. So when people are like, he has such chemistry with Kajol, I'm like, I honestly don't find it to be any more chemistryful than
Chemistryful, chemical.
yeah, than his interactions with like the guy who plays his best friend. Like, I honestly don't feel like it's more, but I also find her kind of shrieky and irritating most of the
I do
time. So
too.
I don't I don't really buy anyone being in love with her. Frankly, she's annoying. And I'm sure it's mainly what directors told her to do, right? Like the
Right.
persona of the heroines at that time, like whatever. But but Ronnie, I feel like kind of can hold her own against him in
Yeah.
really good ways. But yeah, she's my favorite. I do
They're
like him with
both
Preeti,
very
but
smoldering.
yeah, and they have like a sexiness to them that I feel like the
Like their eye
others,
contact.
yeah, that the
Like
others don't so much.
have you seen Chalte Chalte? All the songs in that movie is just they're so hot. Like Tauba
Right,
Tumhare Ishare,
right.
it's like you can't look away from these people. They look so good. And then them in Mitwa in Kabhi Alvida Na Kehna, so good. Yeah, his chemistry, but also his chemistry with Aishwarya is like, oh my God.
And I mean, I know we're only going to get the one film, but him with Mahira Khan is also, I mean, from Rais,
Yeah.
I thought they were really great together too. So you know,
I don't care for his chemistry with like Juhi that much because mostly they're just funny together.
which I
And they
like.
almost,
I do
yeah, which
like
I
that.
like, but it almost gives me like a sibling vibe.
It does not have smolder to me.
There is no smolder to
So it
it.
just kind of depends on what flavor you want. If you want smolder, maybe you
Yeah.
go for that, or for Ronnie. If you want kind of more playful and light, you go for, you go for Juhi. Yeah, he's and someday
I'm
we'll
trying to
see him
wonder.
with
I'm
a woman
trying.
his own age. I don't know, maybe again.
Oh, him with Tabu. We need him with Tabu.
Right.
Although one of our commentators on YouTube made an interesting point where they said, I forget who this was, but they said that they actually don't think that Shahrukh would have good chemistry with Vidya. And at first I was like, how can you say that? And then when I thought about it, I was like, you may be onto something. I feel like she's too earthy and
Hmm.
practical. I don't know. I
Hmm.
don't know. The
I'm
jury's
certainly
out on that one.
willing to watch it should it ever happen, but I don't
I'm
have
willing to
particularly
watch it
strong
and then
thoughts on
decide.
I
Okay.
and he's got great chemistry with people in some of those weird early films too, right? Like he's got chemistry in Maya Memsab. He's got,
Yeah.
he's
He's
all
got
over.
terrible chemistry though with Ravina, Urmila, and Sonali Bendre. Like there's some people that I don't buy him
Yeah,
with, and I didn't
I
like him with
mean,
Sridevi Army either.
there's not enough of it. I feel like
Yeah.
it's not, I would have liked to have seen that. I think he's okay with Anushka. I don't love it.
Eh,
I don't hate it. It's strictly okay.
yeah. And the less said about him with Katrina, the better.
Right. And with Deepika, I also feel like it's fine.
Mm,
It
yeah,
does not
it's
set my soul
fine.
on fire, but it's fine.
No, it doesn't set my soul on fire either. I'm like, okay, whatever. If that's the best we can get right now, okay. Although why we can't get anything better, I don't know.
Right.
But yeah, I think for me, Shah Rukh and Aishwarya and Shah Rukh and Rani is definitely it. And like the best Shah Rukh and Rani movies are probably like, from a chemistry point of view, are Paheli, Kabhi Alvida Na Kehna, and Chalte Chalte.
Mm,
And then his movies with Aishwarya, obviously Devdas. And Josh is weird because they're siblings.
right.
Is Devdas the only Shah Rukh and Aishwarya movie that we have?
Mohabbatain.
Ugh. Okay, I keep forgetting about it. The movie where she has a ghost appearance, not a guest
Right.
appearance.
Ah.
Oh no, I'd forgotten Mohabbatein. Oh
Sorry.
Lord, no.
Even
Yeah,
after
thanks
Uday
for
reminded
reminding me
us
of
so
that.
much.
Yeah, I know.
That movie hasn't been so discussed in 20 years.
Yeah, it's not setting anybody's soul on fire. Maybe
I
Aditya
don't think
Chopra's because he
so.
seems to love it. Okay. Did you have any closing thoughts on Duvidha or Paheli beyond telling people to watch both of them immediately and tell us what they think?
I just feel like for such a simple idea, there's these remarkably different and really rich and rewarding treatments that are, so different from each other, and both make very full, complete projects. And my hat is very much off to everyone involved in both these films, because I think they're both excellent, and I'm so glad we have them to watch and discuss.
They're very fulfilling for filmy ladies to watch, aren't they? Because the
Yes.
filmy lady in it, which is Rani Mukherjee, is so good, and her role is so good, her character is so good, and of course Raisa Padamsee's character is also very good. It's just I find it funny where how people always say like men written by women are amazing, you know, but I think Duvidha and Paheli, and of course the source material being the book Duvidha, might be one of the few examples I know where a man written by a man is actually truly amazing. Where I was like, wow, Vijay Deta, like I almost want to read more stuff by him, because I have not read anything by him, but he is considered one of Rajasthan's greatest writers. He apparently was considered, they thought he was going to win the Nobel Prize for Literature one year,
wow.
but then I think there was a Scandinavian writer who got it. Like he's considered very, very big in Rajasthan. And he made it a point to only write in his own language, in Rajasthani rather than Hindi and stuff, which also makes it harder to receive his works. But I think given the age in which he lived, and given that he hails from a very, very feudal state, I am very interested to see what more points he has to make about women and their status in society and their status in Rajasthani society, since his work is so steeped in his own culture. I'm definitely very interested to find out about that. So that's it for this episode of Filmy Ladies. Please tell us what you think about both of these films. If you have any suggestions for any other movies that you think we should watch and review, let us know. If you have actually read anything by Vijay Deta, then also let us know, because I want to learn more. Beth, were you going to say something?
I just wanted to say, speaking of reading, I feel like now might be a good time to tell our listeners an episode that will be coming up soon that might be a bit of a book club. Would you like to introduce our book?
No, you introduce it.
We, in a few episodes from now, will be discussing Rishi Kapoor's autobiography, because we've been watching things that he's in lately, especially a lot of Yash Chopra films. And neither of us had read this, and we just thought, let's hear from the man himself. Pitu has finished it. I have not. Oh my word. Messy.
It is so messy. It is very, very delightful. It's like if you love gossip, you're gonna love Kalam Kala. I knew that Beth hadn't read it yet, but I kept taking pictures. Like I kept taking screenshots from my Kindle and I kept sending them to her. And I was like, oh my God, with like
And like
underlined
it's
stuff.
vintage gossip that I want. Like I don't care about now gossip. I want then gossip, and it's going to be full of it. So if
It's
you
amazing.
this gives you a couple weeks to read it, and join us in the in the comments and all, because oh boy, I can't wait.
Yeah. I got the Kindle version from Amazon, and I think Beth got it from the library. So get your grubby little paws on Kulam Kula by Rishi Kapoor, so that you can, well, join in the conversation when we talk about it.
We have to record that soon before it's not too warm, before it's too warm to wear a sweater, because we have to wear sweaters to discuss.
We have to wear a jersey, as
Rishi.
he calls them.
Mm-hmm.
We have to wear a Rishi jersey. Okay. Thank you for watching Filmi Ladies, and we will see you soon. Well, I mean, we will see you next week. Like, share, and subscribe to us, and have a lovely, wonderful day. Bye.
We dematerialize like a ghost.